And we should be live. I think they can hear us now. They should be able to hear us now. Hello and welcome everyone to what's the first edition of the Forsaken Cup, organized by Doomsday Sam and Unlucky Lorty, and for the first time cast by me, Dan, and to my right side, I am joined by Djaqk.
Going, everyone. It's going to be a very exciting day at FullSpeed ahead of us.
Indeed.
So, Dan, what do we have planned for today?
First and foremost, we have planned to introduce you guys to the format really quick. And as soon as I get that prepared, we can swap scene to actually show the format.
All right.
I'm in a bit of a lag of screen situation. Here we go. Yes, that works too. Almost. Almost works. Display capture enabled. Here we go.
Right.
Yeah, the format of today's cup will be, well, first off, we'll play Qualification in time attack, where the top 32 of each server advance. I'm not entirely sure if we're going to have one or two qualification servers today. I think that's dependent on how many players will be playing. But we will find out in a sec. So far, only one server is online, so I'm assuming we all will play on one server. Then we will tune into the quarterfinals and start playing in rounds mode, followed by the semis, where top 8 will advance to the grand finals and play for today's current prize pool of 175 euros, contributed to by you guys.
Yeah, it's a stacked field today. A lot of players coming out, some of the best full speed players in the world, so bound to be a exciting competition for everyone.
Actually, what's also still very important to mention is you guys can still contribute to the prize pool by donating during this stream. Also, you can add a second announcement to that. We will not have any alerts on stream today. Simply, well, because it's actually quite complicated to do that while I'm streaming from Sam's channel. And it's also rather distracting when you have announcements popping up mid-match constantly.
Right.
Announcements should still be displayed in chat though. And we will thank all you guys later for your contributions, your followers, for your subscriptions after the tournament.
They are very much appreciated.
Yes, very much indeed.
FullSpeed does not get enough love. It deserves more love. It is an amazing style. And it has a very, very good community, which we're showcasing here today. And we actually have 3 really good community-made maps, and some of the mappers are actually playing today, so that will be interesting to see.
Actually true. We're looking at one of them right now, but he's standing a little still.
Is it Wille?
Yes.
Ah, of course. And they're practicing on Chrome as hell just for the memes, I guess.
It's quite a good warm-up map, I assume. Can
Just to see who's got it.
Skills.
Right. I still have yet to actually complete this map, and it's sort of a prerequisite for some of the best full speed players to hunt this map and get a good finish, so that's something I should probably work on doing. But I'm sure a lot of these players in the field here have actually done so.
Probably most of them, actually.
Nah.
Though,
Now I just feel bad.
To be fair, to an extent, it's not even like a speed slide simulating map. It's like a mix of speed sliding and cancelling your airtime properly. As you can just see Edwin attempting to get proper airtime by air braking in order to land flat.
It's a very precise map, and you need to do everything almost perfectly, but luckily that's not exactly what our maps here are today, although they are precise and they are not exactly easy.
I'd argue today's map are actually a lot trickier to get a really good time on than Chroma's Hell. Like, Chroma's Hell is a map that's very hard to finish, but like in essence, it's fairly simple. You just have a bunch of basic SDs followed by speed checks. But today's maps are gonna ask a lot of different skills from the players. Like, you have a bunch of different tubes, turnovers, speed slide on different surfaces with different like forms of grip. They're actually really, really difficult to get right.
And they've only been out for a week, whereas Crumb as Hell has been out for many months, so this is where players need to learn the map very quickly, relatively, and then perform very consistently. So that will be exciting to see.
About to go live, so let's swap to the in-game theme, so we do not distract you guys from the actual action.
Of course. Alrighty.
Map order will be Syrup, Djaqk, and to finish it all off, Chill Day for the first round of the qualifications. And yeah, let's get going. I just hope I don't mess up too much with the swapping between the players. It's going to be a lot of action.
If I'm not mistaken, we also have a second server that the players will be split between, so we will not be able to spectate everyone at the same time during the qualification, but once the first eliminator is done, then we will have everyone on the same server.
So far we have 40 people on this server. Actually, never mind, there is no map order. Just live here, guys, there is a random map order, and we are going to skip to the first map now, as Snix just mentioned in chat.
See what we get. It is Syrup by Wille Knas. Exciting stuff. All of these maps are really good in my opinion, so I'm sure they'll be very competitive between these players.
All the maps are fairly different in style and ask different skills of the players. And I think, at least in my personal opinion, this is the easiest of the three maps. Because it has like the most basic features, but it's still fairly challenging. Like, we're going to see a lot of discrepancy between the players in the field.
Right. Already, we're getting to see a bit of the lines players are taking. This will just be foreshadowing for the upcoming competition, and this is just our first warm-up, so the qualification starts after this round. I'm nervous and I'm just watching right now.
Yeah, I'm nervous because of casting mostly. I'm not gonna lie, last time we had to do like a qualicast, it was a bit of a mess because it was really difficult to like follow the correct players and keep a decent picture of how standings are, who's doing well in a single round, because it's so many players. Obviously,
it's very
we can do
hectic.
it a little better this time.
Hopefully, yeah. I mean, there's a lot of information, so if we miss anything, forgive us. But trust me, we want to see everything. This is something you can't miss if you're into FullSpeed.
Yes, and as Doomsday just mentioned in chat as well, for qualification, your average placement is what's the important thing. Like, a point system is, as far as I know, can you please disappear? Like, the points drop 1 point per player, so like first gets, I don't know, what's actually the max points? We're gonna see after this one, but if first gets 40 points, second gets 39 and so on. So like you don't get a huge advantage for that. Oh.
Right.
We're currently watching the mapper Wille, trying to set his first time, see how well he's prepared on his own map.
It wouldn't surprise me that some players even outpace Wille on his own map just because of the sheer skill of the field that we have here today.
Yeah,
players are so quick at learning.
I'm also 100% convinced people are going to beat out Wille. We have many of the top tier players, and while Wille is very, very good, like he's gotten a lot better in the past year, there are still people outpacing him by quite a margin. For example, we have Ling, like basically we have the entirety of Evo playing, the entirety of Shift playing, Mada playing.
Right. And Evo and Shift, some of the strongest teams in the world. Mada obviously a FullSpeed legend.
Wille actually going for fancy upside down SD, like trying the slide that's known as a galaxy drift as of now. Not sure if
pretty new tech, right?
Yeah, indeed. Not sure if he actually gained much with this. He didn't put in the top time. Currently, we have Chroma in first with a 55.1 and Orcs in second with a 55.2. Pretty decent times, but still leaving room for improvement.
Let's have a look on the second server. Oh no, okay. I'm still looking at the qualification results between the servers right now, so it's updating very quickly. We'll see how this pans out.
Sam just announced that 50 euros have been added to the prize pool. That's a huge increase.
Thank you to whoever added that.
Yeah, unfortunately, it seems like I cannot actually see the chat announcements of donations and stuff. That's a bit of an overlook on our organizatorial side. But it will have to do without.
Right. Roma's still at the top. Ox not too far off. Link in third.
We just saw Mada setting the new 5th best time, but he has already been overtaken by Wille himself. Let's take a look at somebody a bit further back. We have Kanter playing. For those who don't know Kanter, which is probably most of you, he's like a really old school FullSpeed player I used to play with like 10 years ago probably, maybe even more. And he was mostly known as a roller coaster enjoyer. Let's see how much he has still left in it.
For the uninitiated, what defines a roller coaster FullSpeed map?
A roller coaster FullSpeed map is basically a very fast-paced FullSpeed map with very little breathing room in between features. Like on a, what I would call a standard FullSpeed map, you usually have like a feature or like single features like a tube connected by road or platform parts where you SD, have other tricks like add time reduction. But roller coasters, unlike these maps, do not have these parts. That's just feature right after feature. Like basically the features have transitions that transition right into the next feature.
Right. So like, it's pretty aptly named. Just constant action.
Yeah, exactly.
Although these are still constant action. It's just broken up slightly between different speed drifts and transitions that the players have to manage. So that's why it's a competition map. A lot of skill to complete these with very good times and also consistently. So who do we have dominating the field right now? Chroma has a 55.16.
Yep, Chroma's still in first. Mada has actually advanced to second, while we see Kanter full stopping. Who else do we have to take a look at? Currently in last and has not set a time is Echo. Let's see if he can show up on this run and set his first time. Actually oversliding quite a bit here, but still on a decent run. I mean, any time is better than no time.
True. Although it's only the top 32 that advance, correct?
Yes, top 32 advance to the next round, and since we're on 2 servers, I'm assuming top 16 on each server. Can actually anyone in chat confirm if we are on 1 or on 2 servers? Or is it a total of 40 players right now? It's a 1 server. Okay, so we have every player available on this server, 40 in total.
Oh.
And
Awesome.
top 32 will advance to the next round. So currently with only 34 people finishing, well, the rest, the remaining people are basically the casters and organizers. We currently only have 2 dropout spots, in which we have Psycho and Echo right now.
It's gonna be close. We're gonna have to see who can, collect their times. They only have 15 minutes, which isn't a super long time. I think Echo was chatting and said that they may or may not have forgotten to practice the maps, so that might be an explanation why they're taking a little bit longer, but Echo's still a good player, so we could still see Echo grab that 30-second plus spot.
Yeah, definitely.
Minus, rather.
I mean, he still has quite some time left to set a decent time on this one, and he can definitely do a lot better than he's currently doing. He won't be able to finish this one though, as we see him kind of forgetting the route by the looks and crashing out. Who else do we have? We have a couple more unknown names here, like Silent Sam, Dontefaz, Bostage, players I personally have never heard of, but they're not doing too bad for themselves and are currently in qualifying positions.
Let's hope we see more of them. It's always great to see new faces in these competitions.
I'm already being flamed for calling Dontefaz unknown. I'm sorry for Mazo. I'm not super familiar with a lot of the newer players. So I'm sorry if there is some oversights on my side.
We're trying our best.
Yeah. Dontifa's currently on a decent run, getting a huge overslide here though. It's going to lose him some pace, and he's currently 0.1 behind his PB. And he's not going to improve here unless his PB made a major mistake at the finish. Going for a wide SD, clipping, and he will not improve indeed. Meanwhile, we see Ox popping in a new best time. Well, at the front actually a lot has changed. Mada has also overtaken Chroma, CD has slotted in a 0.2, Max has slotted in a 0.2 as well, and Kaspar, or Vera, previously known as Vera, has also slotted in a 0.2, followed by Acid, Link, Kirill, Dave, Moose, and Willer for the top spots. Let's take a look at somebody more in the midfield, like Carbon, for example. Who's currently starting a new run and restarting another new run. And he's fighting for a top 17 spot now, trying to improve from his current 18th position.
Is there any real benefit from making the top of the field, or is it simply just getting out of this 32 elimination spot, and then these players are basically just practicing for this next round?
I'm assuming, I don't know for sure, I'm assuming this is also used as a seeding for the next few. Actually, never mind. I'm stupid. It's a cup mode format, so it literally doesn't matter where you qualify.
Gotcha.
Since you don't get any bonus points for the next round, and the next round is just, well, 60. Like everyone plays for himself.
Right.
So it literally doesn't matter if you qualify in first or in 32nd.
All right. We got our chat working on the numbers. Someone asked what the world record was, and it is a 54.93 by Ox, resident streamer friend. Very fast, of course. It needs to be.
Yep. I'm wondering if that's the actual WR still, or if people have been putting better times in offline. Because I know a couple of the better players have been training offline.
Really?
I know Kyril trained offline specifically. He's currently standing still at the start, so we can't look at what he's doing. And I haven't seen Mada in slot in any times before, and he seems quite fast, so maybe he played some before too. But Mada's just a legend and really good at the game, so he might have just learned the map on the fly, really.
Sure, you really can't tell. He just drives it like he's played it 1,000 times.
Yeah.
The first time he tries it, usually I'm like blown away when he drives something for the first time. He just seems like he knows exactly where to go. Yep. But that's a lot of these players. Like when you give them a week to prepare for full speed maps, these are some of the best full speed players in the world. So typically they can learn the route in 30 minutes to an hour easily, and then every minute after that they're trying to figure out where they can gain the most time in each slide, do the obstacles in the most efficient way. So it's really going to be a battle of who can figure out the maps the fastest in this week and perform them well in this competition today.
I'm especially looking forward to what different lines players are going to take, because maybe not as much on this map, because this map is fairly straightforward in what you have to do. The only part I'm curious about here is the plastic Mada just passed through. Like you can either do a longer SD around the outside of the plastic, or you can do what Mada just did, and SD over the plastic. I'm quite curious what the faster line, because technically SDs on plastic are a lot more efficient than SDs on platform. Though having a longer SD around the outside might also give you more speed, as we see Mada actually improving the currently best time and slotting in a 55.06.
Wow. Top of the field, as per usual for him. We have some classic names like Acid in the front of the pack right now.
Yep, Acid improved to 3rd place actually. Any player you want to take a particularly close look at? Anyone you're particularly interested in right now?
It's hard to pick between this
so many
smorgasbord of full speed players. Maybe we could check out who's looking. How about we check out Magic from Steer for a little bit?
He's currently in 23rd, right? Yeah. And he's just about starting a new round. Perfect.
trying to break that 56-second barrier. Obviously, players are getting all the way down to low 55. Possibly we may see a 54x at some point today on this map, but 1 second difference is quite a lot to make up. But it's really all about just making the cut, not being necessarily the fastest on each map.
Yep.
But right now, safe is Magic.
Yeah, Magic's actually looking pretty good. He is currently... oh, he's clear by quite a good margin. He's over a second, actually almost 2 seconds clear of the last qualification slot right now. The last slot is currently occupied by Silent Sam. And it's looking like we're gonna have a fight for the last qualification spot between, I'd say, like these 6 players, like Superluminal, Bostage, Dantefas, O5, Psycho, Sam, Echo, and KRNI. I'm assuming
just gonna go with Kearney.
Yeah, Kearney or Carney.
Yeah, something. Kearney is like a carnival worker, so I'm gonna go with Kearney. I don't want to call this guy a clown. I mean, when you're competing against players that are arguably some of the best in the world and have thousands of hours in this particular style, it's not easy to stay at the top of the pack. So even if you are at the bottom of the pack, you're still probably a pretty darn good player. It's just maybe you didn't practice as much as some of these players have put in. Because I know in the past for certain different competitions, some of these full speed players have blown me away with how much they prepare for these competitions. They put in multiple hours into just practicing over and over again for each map. I think for one of the team competitions, some of the players were putting upwards of like 15 hours of practice in, which I'm not sure is matched for these 3 maps, but I can guarantee you they're putting a lot of time into practice, so that will come to fruition today. We're seeing it right now with some of the better players getting very close to that second barrier of 54. Do you think we'll get that broken in rounds? I almost think it has to be done.
Seems unlikely right now, but maybe we haven't seen the entire depth of what players have prepared yet. Like, it's just the qualification so I can imagine a bunch of the better people haven't shown their true potential yet. They're just gonna do well enough to qualify comfortably, and then we may see some better times in rounds by them when they actually show
secret lines
what they have in store for us. And it's currently looking like Echo and Kearney are going to be the 2 players dropping out. Neither of them is on run still. So yeah,
big F.
They're unfortunately dropping out of the tournament. I guess in Echo's case, he can't be too sad about it if he didn't practice. Still, really good effort.
Sure. Yep. Happy to have them here.
Yep. We will be moving on to the next round with everyone else left in the pack. And we have Mother and Ox clocking in 0.0s, a bunch of 0.1s following up, and a bunch of 0.2s. Actually, pretty packed field. I'm looking forward to seeing this in rounds. Actually, I shouldn't call who's dropping out yet, because we have 3 maps. Obviously, we're going to play all 3 maps in the qualifier, and then the average time is going to count. So currently, the 2 players mentioned are on the dropout spots, but they haven't dropped out yet. I should clarify that. I think what I said very much sounded like they already dropped out.
It's all right. I mean, they're going to have to pick it up, though, for these next 2 rounds to stay in it. And it definitely will not help their chances, but you never know. Echo could pull out some very good times in these next 2 maps, maybe a little bit more comfortable with them. And the other player, it was a newcomer. I'm looking for their name. They leave the server?
Right, who? Who are we talking about?
It was Echo and
Kearney. No, he's still on the server. I'm currently
there. We go. Kearney's there.
And we still have all 34 players on the server.
Okay.
Nobody has had any internet issues or rage
Kearney
quits yet.
Yeah, not yet. Hopefully, I don't think, like, I've seen some players, rage quit out of certain competitions, but I think that was just to troll certain streamers. But I think this is a really well-respected tournament here. We have very good maps to play on and a lot of strong competition, which, if I was playing today, I would absolutely not miss for the world. So,
yes,
yeah, I imagine the players are happy to be here.
I'm pretty sure some of these players are playing a solo tournament for the first time, and no matter how well they do, it's still like an experience to cherish for them.
Right.
Maybe let's talk a little bit about our second map, which is, as far as I can tell, the most controversial one. Let's actually spectate someone who has a really good time on it. Chroma's going very fast right now, so maybe that helps explaining it a little bit.
Yep.
It's a very tricky one because it has a bunch of speed slides you don't easily get. Like, you can easily miss speed slides here because they're really tricky to start. Like, obviously Chroma are going really wide here, and for example, if you end up a little tighter right there, you will not be able to SD the entire stretch because you will have to cancel the SD and line up in a second attempt really for a shorter SD. And some people haven't liked that too much, but I think there's just as many people who like that a lot. Because it gives the players some room for creativity to find different lines.
Right. That's the key. A lot of full speed skill comes down to finding the line that feels good to you and also allows you to get the most SDs and the longest SDs possible within the shortest amount of time. Cover that ground as efficiently as possible.
Yep. And this one has a particularly interesting trick. I don't think we've seen Chroma do it yet, but on the first transition, like after the long SD to the left, you have this little zigzag SD through the, well, kind of hill-like part. I don't really know what to call it. And on the last transition of that, before the wall, you can actually get a two-wheel SD. If you line up correctly, yes. It's very tricky, and I doubt we're going to see it in rounds. But that can gain you like up to 5 speed, I think.
So
maybe
definitely
even
not
more.
nothing. Yeah, that could be a factor. Who knows? These players
Actually,
never cease to surprise me. So
yeah, I'll point out what transition it is right now because Chroma is starting a new attempt. It's this one here. Yeah, Chroma went for the safe white line. You can also go for a more centric line where your car almost flips, but if you line it up correctly, you can actually get a two-wheel SD there, and that is a lot faster. Currently, we have Link and Kirill leading the pack. Actually, Link going for a new attempt. Maybe he's going to try that. Nope, Link also going for the safer approach. To be fair, it's not necessary to do that, especially for players like for like these kind of players who can easily qualify no matter what here.
Right. I imagine the only time they'd be pressed to make a risky decision like that is when they're in some of the final rounds of the competition and need to get every split second that they can.
Yeah, exactly.
So right now they're just practicing their efficient lines, their constant, runs that they can make here just to make sure that they're prepared in rounds.
Yeah, Kirill's actually just finishing a run that's quite close to his current PB, but not even the PB. Just to practice, I'm assuming. As we see Mada slotting in the first 0.9 with a 95. That's pretty solid, considering the current WR is a 52.79, so not even 0.2 of WR.
Yep. And that world record currently is by Max.
Yes,
so a lot of strong players in here.
100% sure there's a bit offline there.
Yeah, I wouldn't doubt it.
Kirill improving as well to a 53.01. And let's have a look at some of the less experienced players. And let's find out how they cope with this map. Let's have a look at 05. We haven't had him on screen yet, I think. Actually, getting really good at these there. Not lining up properly though and flying off the map.
A lot of these players, while they're playing right here for us, it looks very easy. They all make it look very easy, but these maps are much harder than they seem. I mean, obviously, someone with some knowledge of full speed could probably complete these in somewhat reasonable amount of time, but to actually make them very efficient and get your times lower, you need to risk and really understand each of the transitions and where to put your SDs
Yeah, and maps like these that are generally very challenging because they use a lot of features and transitions that people that just play public a little bit or just play TODDs simply have never seen before, and they just won't know what to do without a lot of practice. And even among the best players, there is still like huge difference in what lines they take, and even those need to invest a good amount of time to figure out what the best lines are and find all the small details to gain quite a lot of time in some cases.
Yeah, definitely a lot of time. I mean, the top of the field right now in the lower 50, no, not lower, the higher 52 range, whereas some of the back of the pack is still somewhere around 54 mid. So definitely some time discrepancies here, although that shouldn't matter too much for the people just trying to qualify. When it really starts to matter is in the next few rounds where it, you know, becomes very important to keep consistently good pace to get into the top 16, 8, and so on.
Yep, I just remembered something. Can you open the website that shows the current overall ranks on your second screen, maybe? Because I cannot do that.
Right now at the top spot, we have... I don't know if I can ever say this name right. It's Akito?
We will.
How do you say it?
I'm not sure. Aikito, maybe? Like, I don't know if you just pronounce one long I or if you pronounce both I's.
Right. So they are in first. Echo. Wait, this can't be right.
No, I don't think it's updated properly yet because, like, right now, Mada should be in first.
Yeah, you'd think so.
Who, by the way, has slotted in a new best time, and we already have 4 52 times now. By Madamax, Link, Kirill, and Acid and CD are also very close to slotting in a 52.
Yeah. Very fast players here. I mean, I think my PB after trying it for a little while was like mid 54 range, and it took a lot of work to start cutting down that time. So these players have a very good understanding of where to gain time here. I think it really comes down to some of the larger SDs in the middle of the map and then conserving that speed throughout the rest of it.
And like for someone who's more comfortable doing the SDs and rarely overslides or underslides, this map is still very difficult because you have SDs on different surfaces. For example, to get a good SD on road doesn't mean you have to, like, getting a good SD on just road isn't the same steering angle as getting a good SD when you have a reactor boost active. And constantly swapping between these two types of SDs can easily be fucked up. Like, you can easily over or underslide because your grip just rapidly changes, and it's especially hard to immediately get a good SD. Like, for example, a lot of more unexperienced players will over or underslide the first few seconds of an SD because they still need time to adapt to the new found grip, basically. Right. And it's a skill that this map forces a lot.
So when you transition into a reactor boost SD, is that where you want to make your speed drift a little bit wider in your overlap? What is the change in your direction
yes. There? I'm actually not 100% sure how it behaves at like super high speeds, but especially at low speeds, reactor boost SDs, you like with reactor boost SDs, you want to have less overlap than with basic platform or road SDs. Because like, I think the basic rule is, like the basic physics is, like, don't quote me on that, I have never confirmed that, but I'm pretty sure it's at least somewhat accurate. The more grip you have, the less overlap you want, like the wider your skid needs to be.
Right.
And with the reactor boost active, like with the reactor boost down active, you obviously have more grip because you're forced to the ground harder, so you want to have a little wider of a skid.
Well, the top of the pack is definitely utilizing some of that technique. In the middle is fighting for their placements here, making sure that their averages are good enough to keep in the top 32. Echo and Kearney, once again at the back of the pack. It's not looking very good for them for qualification, but you never know. Psycho Edge on the precipice of that 32. We'll see. We'll see who's going to stay in. Yeah, it seems like we may have.
I'm not sure who exactly, but we are only 33 players left on the server, so no, it's only one player dropping out. And yeah, it's still looking like it will be decided between Echo and Kearney who that player is. It's currently looking a lot better for Echo because Kearney is still a second off him. But maybe he can slot in a decent time on this map. Maybe it's prepared a little better. It's not looking too much like I don't know Kearney, I haven't seen him previously, but by his driving I'd assume he's a beginner and kinda need to full speed. So this is gonna be a very difficult map to master for him.
Sometimes I'm surprised, like, you can have players that are fairly, knowledgeable of what full speed generally is, but once you start getting put on these competitive maps where you can lose your gains so much time depending on your understanding of where to speed drift and how to take these obstacles, it can really snowball your speed away from you. So even if they are experienced to some decent extent, sometimes you just don't have the correct understanding of where to gain the time that these other
actually
players
missing
are.
the finish here on what would have been an improvement.
Oh no.
And while we've been talking, Max has actually set a new best time and almost equaled his current online world record, only missed it by 4,000 of a second. And is now leading the pack ahead of Mada.
So we're starting to get a bit of a taste for who will be strong on each map. This is only a sample size, like a small sample size, but this will be probably somewhat indicative of which players will be strongest on which map.
Yeah, to an extent. I mean, having the better PB and being able to slot in the better time and time attack doesn't always mean you're going to be the better guy in rounds, because yes, you can slot in the faster time, but can you do it consistently? Or will you make a lot of mistakes because you risk too much?
True.
So that doesn't really mean much. Like I'd reckon the current top 7 have good enough pace to compete for first places on this map. But yeah, obviously the people with the best PBs have a slight advantage there. Looking at chat,
strong players.
Yes, definitely. Looking at chat, Dignity is asking for a quick peek into how the cast is going so far. I'm assuming that's addressed to us.
It's going well, I'd say.
Yeah, I think we're slowly dialing in our chemistry.
I'm just, I'm almost in my head. I'm just sort of a regular spectator here. I just get to talk about it with pretty much an FS pro. I'd say you're a pro, right, Dan? You're pretty much a pro,
I guess.
In my eyes. What defines a full speed pro? Because really,
I have no idea.
There's not like a big league, but some of these players are easily top 100, if not much higher. So
legendary pro. Fuck you, Aethel. Aethel knows very well I hate that. I don't know, I'm always confused about the term pro in esports in general, because there's a bunch of smaller games where I mean, technically a professional to me at least means it's someone who actually makes their money off his profession of playing a certain video game, of playing tournaments and stuff. And barely anyone qualifies as a pro with this definition in Trackmania. So I guess in Trackmania it's just going to be the best people in their respective style.
Right. Okay, that's fair. I mean, I just watched the grand finals of Dota, the international, an hour or two ago, and those guys are making millions of dollars at the highest level, and Trackmania isn't exactly at that same echelon for making money, but I still think it's just as important and pretty much just as skillful. Like, it's obviously completely different game-wise, but these are some of the best players in the world out of thousands and thousands of competitors. So in my eyes, most of these players are quote-unquote pros, although they may not make a living off of it. I still think that if you were to ask anyone, these guys are the pros. These guys could teach you how to play the style the best you could possibly play it.
Talking about the best players, Mada is actually on a PB run right now, and he did get a mini 2-wheel SD. Not the proper one, but a mini one. He doesn't get the best line up here. He's going to lose speed, so he will likely not improve his PB. Yeah, he definitely won't because he's running out of time. And yeah, we have Max popping in the top time, while at the back it's currently in the dropout position, and he should also be in the dropout position overall.
Right. And with one less player now, Echo may be safe if they can keep up pace in this next map.
Yep.
Here we are, final map. It's Chill Day by Kenji. This is, I mean, what's your opinion on this map, Dan? I think this map's pretty cool. I think all the maps are pretty cool, granted.
I think it's really cool too. It's quite different in a way from the other two maps, because the features used in this map, like we talked about roller coasters earlier, and this actually has a couple roller coaster style feature combinations. Let's see if someone's actually driving in warm up, so we can maybe see it. Who's at the front? Ox is currently at the front. He looks to be driving. It does have some roller coaster style features, but yeah, first and foremost, I was made aware yesterday. Well, let me cancel that out, because this is like the roller coaster style feature I was talking about, where you basically you have one feature in form of tube transitioning right into the next turnover or tube. Like this and the Willow map have a couple of these. But yeah, I think I was made aware yesterday that this is sort of a spring day tribute, and the name also attributes to that. It's called Chill Day, so it's sort of a tiny bit transitional map with two roller coaster style features and a bunch of spots you want to keep good airtime in, a bunch of tricky upside down stuff. I quite like it.
Yeah, I think it has.
Can't really say much more.
So, there are some interesting transitions here, such as the cake walls.
Yep,
it's interesting to see where the players are gaining the most time. Max already in the front of the pack. But, wait, oh, of course. He has not gotten his time yet.
Yeah, we're not live yet, it was warm up. But Max is currently on a run, and it's looking like a good run.
Right.
Getting a bit of an overslide here. Should still have good speed. But not quite making the finish.
Oh,
I think
risky.
I'm sorry.
No, it's fine. That risky is definitely risky. I mean, we might just see that come into play during rounds. That's not an easy one to hit 100% of the time, but
yeah.
I mean, there are some precautions you could take, like maybe if players are aligning a certain point of the jump in their head.
Exactly. I don't think it's too bad. It's quite difficult when you just look at it. Like it looks really risky, but
right.
If you go low on the entrance, like low on the jump, you almost always make it. Like I tried the map a bit yesterday, and it just took a couple minutes of trying, and I had a line that works very well, very consistently. Though when we get to the rounds part, where people have to risk for points, but it becomes really important to gain individual places, this finish might become a problem for some. It's going to be interesting to see.
Yeah, I mean, anytime there's a risky finish, you know, when pressure's high and nerves are high, you never know. Mistakes could be made, and that might just, you know, make the competition. We'll see if people's nerves stay intact. It's always hard when you're in a competition like this, staying on point 100%, because it's one thing to do it in practice consistently, but when the pressure's on, you never know.
Exactly. Like, you might have a certain point you want to line up for, but in a round you're so focused on something else that you kind of forget to line up and just miss it. It happens very easily when the adrenaline kicks in.
Right. I know personally when I try to drive competitions, there's sometimes like I'm a little bit weaker on certain sections, like I don't understand them as well, so I end up hyper focusing on making the right movements at the right times, and you almost, you know, forget about some of the more dangerous parts other than that, just because normally you do them naturally, but if your line is just a little bit off or a little bit weird, you may have to overcorrect or something, and that may just throw you completely off. So it's really a game of inches when it gets down to it.
I can only agree with that. Like full speed in general is such a precise Germania style. Like obviously other styles are also very precise. Like Djaqk, for example, you have to precisely hit the apexes of the turns. On dirt, you have to get super tight outside dirt turns or dirt no slides right. But in full speed, literally every inch of the map is kind of about precise steering, because every time you over or understeer a little, you're going to lose speed because your SD isn't optimal. And every time you miss a steering timing, or you slightly over or understeer in a tube, you're going to mess up the line for the perfect exit or entry. So you don't have any breathing room. And like it's very volatile, really.
Totally correct. That's a great word for it. It's just, you know, at these kind of speeds, as we just saw Acid, or I just saw Acid crash into a wall, going for a little bit of an extra risky speed drift in some of these zigzag sections. It could really come down to something like that in rounds. You know, you always hope that the players are putting out their best and not crashing, but it's almost inevitable at, you know, skill this high. You're pushing it, but that doesn't mean you're going to be perfectly consistent. Yeah, it just will happen. Like,
even the very best full speed players do have the moments where they just go brain off and crash because they're too greedy on getting your SD correctly and miss an entrance instead. Because they fail to adapt the line.
Right, and it doesn't always have to be brain off. It could be brain 2 on, and you're just overthinking things. And
yeah, that too.
Yeah, it's really interesting for me, player psychology, like how they deal with stress, and you know, do they listen to music while they compete? Do they listen to nothing and just silence and their own heartbeat in their chest? And
and then it also depends on what environment you're in. Like some in team competitions specifically, for example, some teams use I'd call it a shot caller, really, that tells individual people if they have to push in this round or if they can save because the opponents have made mistakes, because their teammates have already secured the round. Stuff like that, and that's like you have to learn to deal with all that constantly while you're trying to focus on yourself.
But now there is no shot caller but your own mind, so players will have to be their own dictator essentially, and know when they need to push and when they're okay safing. We'll just see how they apply all their knowledge and skill. Right now, who do we have at the top of the field? Harold?
Yeah, we have the Evo guys. Kirill at the top, followed by Chroma, Max, Acid, Ox, and Mada.
Right.
So yeah, the usual suspects really. Yeah. Only Link
a strong team.
Yeah. Only Link trading a little bit on this map right now, but it's only qualifiers. He might just be chilling because he kind of has a qualifying spot secured already. Talking about qualifying spots, Kearney is actually in 32nd right now, because Super Luminal hasn't slotted in a time yet. Let's see if he can do so on his current attempt. It's not looking too bad. Has a good lineup for this. Gets an exit SD as well. A bit wide, but he does get one. And if he does not make any mistakes here, he should slot a time that will guarantee him a qualification spot, pretty much.
Yo, and he makes it. There it goes. I gotta say that turnover into the left, or the right SD right after that turnover into the left SD into the wall is such a smooth section of the map. Really enjoyable to play.
Yeah,
I think the mappers have done a great job. On top of making competitive maps, they're also just generally very fun.
The only thing I'd kind of critique on this is actually the transition into the first tube, because that's kind of weird. Because you have this small clipping edge where your grip changes rapidly. And that's really, really difficult to control. And it does work, I just personally don't like it. The rest of the map is super nice to drive. Let's see, who else do we have? We're currently following Wille, but he is safe and sound right now. Actually in 9th, slotting a top 10 time already. Who have we not looked at yet? I think we haven't seen Alice yet. A Belgium SM player. He's currently in 28th. Looking at his time and looking at the times of the guys behind him, he's also safe and sound already.
Yep.
unless at least 5 people improve their times by a lot now. But currently it's looking like Kearney is the most unprepared here and will drop out unless he really slots in a really good time here. I think he also came in last on the last 2 maps.
Yeah,
so he needs
not looking good.
Drastic improvement here.
Right. You know, it's really hard, especially with, you know, competition so high. Being last isn't exactly hard to do. So many players could have been, you know, in that position, but Kearney had the will to play in this competition, and I think that is enough. You know,
I really hope he's enjoying his time here.
Like, always good seeing new faces.
Definitely, and like literally everyone else in here is already quite accustomed to full speed. Maybe there's a few exceptions that are not that accustomed, but clearly most people have figured out how SDs work. Some better, some worse. So it's like, as someone who clearly hasn't had any major full speed experience yet, it's a really hard task to qualify.
Absolutely. Yeah, the top of the rankings seem pretty close.
Yeah.
A lot of 57.2s in the top 3. 57.3, and then we start to spread out into 0.456 territory in the top 10.
I'm currently having a look at Link because he is the last of the guys that have a really good time right now, I'd argue. Maybe he can improve his time because I'm very sure he has a better PB than that. I'm not aware how Nolaf is. I only know Kirill is very trained. I'm not sure about Link.
No. That's a great way to put it. It really just comes down to dedication at a certain point. Like, how much do you want to practice? Which map do you find fun enough to put a bunch of hours into? And for the most part, this is a competition for fun, although we are blessed with, you know, an opportunity to have a prize pool. So thank you, Sam, for, you know, putting the community together and getting players money for something that is incredibly high skill and should be, you know, valued more than it probably is right now. I mean, artistically, I think people appreciate full speed, but, you know, it's not a huge money-making esport. But, you know, I believe it should be. I'm a full speed fanboy. So.
I think we can have like an hour-long argument, like multiple hour-long argument on why that is. But I think the game has a lot more potential than where it currently is at as an esport.
Absolutely.
For a diversity of reasons.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't want to like divulge the conversation on the, like, oh, you know, TMGL's this or that. I actually love watching other types of styles because even though at heart I love full speed the most, for sure, the other styles of Trackmania are, you know, equally to some extent interesting and complex and difficult to learn, and you know, it's really just an amazing game to watch competition and play yourself. So I think with, you know, the recent influx of players from around the world, you know, we might just see somewhat of a quote-unquote renaissance for Trackmania esports. We're already seeing some really great stuff in TMGL, and more full-speed competitions like this are always great. So very happy to be here.
The player base, like the competitive player base, has definitely been increasing in the past years, like really ever since the TM 2020 release, and I would very much like to see if that trend continues.
Yeah, I mean, right now I think you could consider Trackmania somewhat of a niche game for the most part compared to, you know, certain AAA titles and different tournaments where there's $1 million on the line. In my deepest heart of hearts, I hope one day that I will get to see players play Trackmania for those amounts of money. I think it's like, there's very few arcade racing games with this much complexity in its mechanics, and I think that's what makes it so special.
I think there's very few single, like one-on-one competition games in general where the game is purely skill dependent. Like, there is pretty much no randomizing factor. Like, there is very few, but they're not really worth mentioning at this point.
Sure. Yeah.
So like and with the kind of very evolved editor, the game has a very good baseline because it can infinitely evolve. Like there can be a shit ton of different styles of map, a shit ton of different styles of skills requested, and it's all purely skill dependent. Like there is no RNG, no team play, nothing. So like for a 1-on-1 type of tournament, it's I think the perfect base.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, when you said there's no team, I just immediately thought of ranked and how people mauled over their teammates.
Yeah, I was kind of hinting at that. I guess so.
A little bit more out there. I mean, I forget what I was about to say, but yeah, it's just so much fun watching FullSpeed players do their thing because, I'm such a fan of playing the maps myself, so seeing other players play it at such a high level is such a treat.
I'm kind of wondering if I've by mistake turned off the ghost, because I haven't seen other ghosts in a while, but I can still see the names flying around. I guess players are just so split on the Djaqk right now.
Could be.
It doesn't really matter. Wille actually slotting in, I'm saying. Edwin actually slotting in a new PB here. Gaining the 14th place. He's also qualified very safely, and Kearney has improved actually. Kearney is not in last anymore, and he's put a Merce into that position. I think he's improved by about 9 seconds, so a huge job by him. But I think to not drop out, he will have to improve again. He will not be able to finish another run. So he's likely the one dropping out despite putting in a good effort on the last map and improving his time by a huge margin. Yeah, he will definitely not be able to finish another run.
There it is. The last 10 seconds ticking down.
What do we have? With Chroma topping the scoreboard with a .17, followed by Max, Mada, Kirill, Ox, and Acid completing the top 6 on this one.
GG.
Can you take a look if the overall scoreboard is working properly now?
Let me check. I'm not positive it's going by order, so Echo is in second, and no offense to Echo, but I'm pretty sure that's not correct.
Echo taking all the blame today.
So I don't know if I can do this math in my head. Oh, there is a sum. So maybe I can organize it by sum? No. I don't know. Let me see who's missing here. I'm not sure. Normally I'd be able to read a graph, but yeah.
B1, you're back on stream. Let me see if I can put it up. Maybe it's working for me. Yeah, for me Raven is first. It doesn't work. Yeah, I think it's not organized properly yet. Because... Can you... No, I cannot sort by sum either. Rows per page. Whatever. I guess this will be fixed by the time we start the next round, so we can actually see who's qualified, but we do know who's qualified, right? I think Kearney is going to have the highest sum. He is currently sitting at a sum of 2 minutes, 59 seconds, and 7 hundredths. And I don't think anyone else is above that sum, as far as I can tell. Yeah, no one else is above that sum. So it will be Kearney dropping out and Silent Sam dropping out due to a DNF on maps 2 and 3. And everyone else will move on to the first round of Cup Mode. That will be played in, I think, 20 minutes was called on the server.
Yeah, I believe so.
Okay.
So we have a 20-minute break, and then we'll get into the rounds.
Exactly. So we will send you guys into a quick break screen as well, so we can rest our voices, get a drink, maybe fuel up on some food. See you in a couple minutes. There will be a timer, but it won't be 100% accurate.
Okay.